not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. I want to play a game. Hello everyone, my name is Sparrow, and this is Sparrow Catches Up, a channel where I delve into all of the things that make our hearts race. Now, today, I have something for you all that definitely will get that heart pumping. We're looking at the Saw series. The Saw series started in the early 2000s, created by James Wan and Lee Winnell on essentially a shoestring budget, and has burgeoned into the giant we see today. It's gory, it's fast paced, it's an adrenaline rush in a 2 hour and a half package, and it's perfect. I love the Saw series. It is genuinely my favorite horror franchise. And if you see my intro video, I can hear you asking, Sparrow, you didn't mention Saw when you were talking about your favorites in the intro video. And to that I say, yes, I was trying to seem at least vaguely normal. I failed. I had to talk about Saw. I just have to. It is one of the best horror franchises on the market today. Hopefully still on the market today. Rumors about Saw 11, no confirmations. We'll see. It got sold to Lionsgate recently, so Lionsgate? Blumhouse. Got sold to Blumhouse recently, so we'll see. Now, to stop myself from rambling for an hour or more at you guys, which I can do if you're interested, I've broken down my top 3 things that I think make Saw a perfect franchise and encapsulate why I love it so much. And those 3 things are its visuals, its sound, and its story. These aren't necessarily in any particular order of preference or strength. This is just how I decided to approach it. So let's start with the visuals. When you think of Saw, what immediately comes to mind? For me, shaky camera, quick cuts, very saturated color palettes, lots of greens, blues, like dirty, dingy, tobacco-y yellows. And that visual style is consistent across all of the movies. We see that same sort of color grading and camera work no matter who's working on that particular film. And there is a bit of a revolving door of teams and directors that are involved in these movies. I think it's a huge strong point for the series that it has such a consistent visual language. And the more that you watch it, the more that you can become fluent in that visual language. For instance, David Hackle clues us in the making of Saw 2 to the fact that green often means visually that something really screwed up is about to happen. It accompanies torture scenes, like for that movie, the Venus flytrap at the beginning, our opening head trap. It will often be the color grading for finding bodies of victims. There's also lots of blues that kind of follow us throughout the series. For instance, the bathroom is a very blue washed scene. Despite being a trap, the police precincts often have very blue washed scenes. The tobacco-y yellows are present in things like the nerve gas house in 2, the hideouts in some of the later movies. It really is those 3 predominant colors. Now, there are others, of course, that make little appearances here and there, but generally when you're thinking Saw, you're thinking blue, green, and yellow, and oversaturation. Something else that Saw does a really good job of is creating this unsettling sort of environment that these people are living in. Everything in it is dirty and grungy. None of it's new looking. All of it has some sort of layer of like decrepitness to it. Even the hospital in 1 and in 3, when you look at it, there's something it's an older hospital. You get that impression that it's been there for a while, it's been established, maybe it's not been particularly maintained very well, just to the point of, still being able to operate as a hospital. But even the place that's supposed to be very, very clean feels unclean. In the production design notes for the making of Saw 2, David Hackle talks about how a lot of the props and a lot of the set dressing were meant to be found objects, discarded items, just trash that John Kramer has found and cobbled together for his hideout in the steel mill there. You can see this in his hideout in the first one. You can see it in the Gideon meat plant in 3. You can see it in basically every single hideout that we see, that all of these items are cobbled together messes of what they used to be. Things like lifting belts or bolts or railway spikes or just metal sheets found in random places, things like that. It's a scavenged world. It's a helter skelter mishmash world. Nothing makes sense in the world of Saw. And all of that serves to just put you on edge. Now, it's hard to talk about Saw without talking about the iconic bathroom. Julie Burkhoff designed that bathroom, and she's a genius. When you open on that scene in Saw 1, you're immediately put into this cold, almost clinical setting, but it can't be clinical because look how dirty it is. Look at how gross it is. Look how grimy it is. Nothing in it feels comfortable. Everything in it feels bereft of purpose. Even the mirrors don't reflect anymore. You're thrown into the world of Saw in some place that should be familiar, maybe even safe, but it's not. Nothing in the world of Saw is safe, and everything in the visual language helps convey that. Something that I think the color grading does a good job of too is when you choose blues, greens, and yellows, often those are associated with very uncomfortable things. Blues, very cold, green and yellow, very sickly, dingy, grungy, gross. So I love the visual language. I think it conveys exactly the sort of feeling that you would want from a horror movie like this. And then, of course, there's the gore. Saw has a reputation for being extremely gory. Whether that's earned or not is a bit of a debate. I would say that they start out on the more tame end of gore and then progressively get a little more out there. Same thing goes with the story. You gotta kind of iterate and build and build and build. It's hard to not try to one up yourself movie to movie because a large appeal of the Saw movies is the traps. And that's fair. They're very, very fun. They're not my favorite part, but they're very, very fun. So you gotta talk then about the traps and the gore and the prosthetics and the special effects makeup. There's just so much detail that goes into each of those categories that I could probably spend an entire episode alone talking about the special effects work in the Saw movies. But suffice to say, realism is their goal, and they hit it on the mark. Everyone has at least one trap that makes them go, oh, no, can't watch that. For me, it's the rack. I can't do the rack. There's bones ripping out of skin. There's blood everywhere. There's things turning in directions they aren't supposed to turn in. No, no, thank you. No, thank you. I'm good, actually. For a lot of people, that trap is the needle pit in Saw 2. Needles are a huge phobia for a lot of people. No one likes to be poked. Well, okay. No one likes to be poked with medical needles. Some of us like to go get poked with needles repeatedly for hours on end as therapy. With that being said, everyone has at least that one trap. Additionally, the camera work in Saw is a huge part of the franchise. When you see these quick, frantic cuts between scenes with this sort of shakiness to everything, it's Saw, it's pure Saw. And a lot of it also goes into conveying the world itself, but also the feeling that the scene that you're currently watching is supposed to help you convey. The descent into madness as people become more desperate, scenes become more frenetic. You see the camera work start to become quicker, shakier, more dynamic, moving all the time. The less control someone has, the more that camera is going to be just zipping around the screen. And it's very disorienting. For some people, the cuts are just a little too much. They find them too visually overstimulating, and that's sort of the point of them, is to overstimulate the senses, to put you in the shoes of the person that the camera's currently following. Now, I'm not going to fault anyone for not being able to handle that visual style. Just here to sort of give some context to that visual style. Now, the next part about Saw is the sound. And I would love to talk about the soundtrack first, but I will leave it for the little end bit of this. I would like to start with the Foley work. The Foley work for this series is insane. And for anyone who is not familiar with Foley, that is all of the sound effects that aren't the soundtrack or the dialogue. Things like for knocking something against some ceramic, or, a ooh, for a nice big thud. You'll have Foley work for footsteps. For this series in particular, you'll have it for things like bones breaking, blood spraying, glass needles shattering, a gun going off. Foley work is integral to these movies and to horror in general. The thing about horror is it's a heavily sound reliant genre. Sound is often a huge part of what creeps us out. Like, yeah, watching a bone breaks really bad, but hearing that snap, horrible. It's gut wrenching. The squelching from certain injuries, disgusting. And that's the point. It's supposed to evoke an incredibly visceral reaction in us, and sound is just a huge part of, for most of us, being human. Of course, deaf community, hard of hearing community. Hi, I'm also hard of hearing. Um, it you experience the world a little bit differently, but for a vast majority of the population, sound makes it. And the Foley artists in this work so hard and create such a harrowing soundscape for us to listen to. Now, the sound mixing on top of it, just, it really sets the whole scene. In the making of Saw 2, they talk about how in each scene you go through, you play it in the theater, and then you need to prioritize, okay, what's going to scare people the most? And of course, this isn't unique to the Saw series. Every movie is going to be looking at, okay, what are we prioritizing here? What do we want to make people feel? I just, in particular, find that the Saw series does a really, really, really good job of this sort of prioritization between, okay, do we want the soundtrack to be making them feel something right now? Do they really need to be hearing the dialogue more than anything else right now? Is what's being said going to evoke the reaction we want right now? Is what's being heard by the characters going to evoke the reaction that we want right now? And then mixing that in and out until you get that perfect balance. And I think Saw has that perfect balance of prioritization. I find that every single scene, when you listen for what's going on and what the storytellers and the directors and the creative teams find the most important in that moment, if you listen to that, you could really get through these movies on sound alone. The visuals incredibly striking. Please watch them. But if you just listen sometimes, just close your eyes and listen to some of the scenes, fantastic. And a huge part of that is Charlie Clouser. If you have heard anything from Saw, you've heard Hello Zep. I would love to clue you in on it a little bit, but I would not like to get copyright struck. Go look it up if you're not sure what I'm saying or what I'm referencing. If you need a little jog, it's usually what plays at the twist of every Saw movie. In particular at the very end of the first one. What I find fascinating about the way Charlie Clouser composes his pieces and applies music to these movies is the way that it is both very much so a composed piece, but also just a whole lot of chaos and industrial noise and machines, screaming strings, frenetic rock music, just heavy drums. Everything that goes into these is just intense. Even the lulls, where you have like in Hello Zep, this sort of dark, tragic, almost noble piece, it still is very deep, very reverberative. You feel it in your chest, a lot of this music. And it sticks with you. It gets your heart racing. It helps slow your brain down for certain scenes. It's really really masterfully composed, and I don't think the series would be the same without Charlie Closer's influence. Something that he mentions in an interview, and excuse me, I forget where I got this interview from. I will definitely have my sources in the description below. He talks about how in a lot of movies, traditionally you have motifs for characters, and while there are definitely some character motifs going on, a huge part of the Saw series is the motifs follow situations and feelings and places rather than characters, so you can sort of layer them together in a sort of, okay, they're in this location feeling this thing, let's mix those and kind of go from there, to where you can really get an impression of exactly what is going on just on music alone. If I remember correctly, it was Juan who told Charlie Closer, I want these to be able to be listened to as like silent movies. Same thing with just soundtrack. And I think Charlie Closer did a really, really good job of giving us such a cinematic, evocative soundtrack to where you really don't necessarily need the dialogue to follow what's going on in the story. Speaking of the dialogue is what builds the story. Of course, there's the visuals and the sound that also help build the story, but let's be honest, we all get most of our stuff via words. I'm sorry if you hear my dog barking in the background. There's neighbors moving around and she goes insane. The story is the most contentious point of Saw, for sure. There's a lot of people who argue that there isn't even a story, that it is really just a delivery system for shock and gore, and to them I say I really need you to sit down and at least watch Saw 1. You'd be shocked at how not gory it is. Saw 1 is definitely very, very tame. It's much more a psychological thriller and a drama, even more so than a horror movie. Granted, there is quite a bit of body horror within the franchise. I'm not saying it's not, but just that you'd be surprised at how little a lot of the Saw movies actually show. What I like about the stories of these are how much they are ensemble pieces. You cannot have a Saw movie without an almost convoluted amount of moving parts. The closest we get to non-convoluted amount is the first movie, where you just have the people in the trap, the people right outside the trap, and the people trying to find the trap. And I'm trying to be vague on purpose in case you haven't seen the movies. So even then, at least 3 moving parts and multiple people within those moving parts. We get flashbacks, we get flash forwards, we get, present day stuff. It A Saw movie is meant to jump around and disorient you, and the stories are just the same. Now, 1 through 3 are more grounded in reality. Lee Winnell and James Wan still had a lot of influence on those. After that point, they go a little off the rails, and that's often where they lose a lot of people. That's where they get me. They become almost horror soap operas in a lot of ways, and if you like over the top ridiculous, please give 4 through the rest of them a try. They're absolutely worth your time. The cop drama becomes a lot more involved. The traps become bigger and bigger with every passing movie. It's just a delight. The later Saw movies really were just made for Saw fans. Aside from that, something else is that each Saw movie is a building block. Every single one of them builds on the prior movie. And that can be off-putting for some people. It is a very, very large set of movies. Like I said, there are 11. 10, if you ask me. There's 10. Spiral is an unwanted stepchild. But the thing about having that many movies and using each movie as a building block is to kind of cut into that intimidation. A lot of the movies will do little recaps in the middle where you just like, you'll have a scene where, oh, we found this thing, and then it'll flash back to 2 movies ago when this thing was set up, and you get to see how it's done. So they can be watched independently. You really can jump in at any time if you're okay with being a little bit confused, but it'll catch you up. It'll get you there. You'll get enough information to at least be on mostly even keel. And honestly, sometimes even I need those little flashbacks where I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen in 3. Oh yeah, that was a thing that was set up in 4, and now we're paying off on that story beat. That's another thing, is when it comes to them being building blocks, they'll start something in like movie 5, and then you'll be in movie 7. And it's like, oh, that's why they did that thing. Lots of setup pieces. A little bit ambitious for something that might not be able to wrap it up. You never know in the entertainment industry whether or not you're going to get the next movie, unless you, of course, already have like a 3-movie deal in the works that you've signed on. So, very ambitious, very ballsy. The Saw series is very ballsy. The thing when you cut Saw down to its main parts is it is a story about human natures and choice and our primal instincts, and what would you do in one of the worst situations of your life. And a huge part of that is you don't know. You can sit there and you can say, okay, if I was in the silent circle, for instance, in Saw 7, I would simply hold my breath instead of making noise. And the reality of that is you don't know. You don't know unless you're put into that situation. You don't know what choice you would make. A lot of the characters in those situations don't know what choice they're going to make until they're making it. And that's a huge draw of it. Also, just how ridiculous the cop parts get. The investigation into Jigsaw and in the later movies his accomplices is a convoluted, twisty turny tale of what in the heck are these guys doing. And I think if they had gone with a more traditional investigative approach, it would have really flopped. It would have been boring to watch, a little too procedural. But even from Saw 1, Detective Tapp already clues us in to how crazy some of these cops can get in their pursuit for Jigsaw. A little Kramery sometimes with their obsession, and I think that's perfect in the world that they are trying to do and trying to convey. It's so fun. I cannot express enough. Saw is so fun. And that's one of the things I think, if I had to say one thing actually about the series that I love, is it's just fun. It lets itself be ridiculous. It lets itself be over the top. And I think that if it had tried to constantly maintain that more grounded approach, it would have fizzled off a lot sooner than it did. If you look at 4, it is one of the movies cited the least as people's favorite. And it does bridge that gap between, okay, more grounded Saw, a little more over the top. And you can feel it. It's the growing movie. It's your tween years. It's the tween years of Saw, where you can feel the narrative becoming over the top. And I like Saw 4. I like Saw 4 just fine. It's really interesting to watch, especially if you do it right after Saw 3 and kind of get to go, oh, the whole time. Yeah. It's fun. I'm going to say it's fun a lot. I'm sorry. I, of course, cannot put the story segment of Saw to rest without talking about the twists. Saw movies build up to twists. You know there's going to be one in every movie. You're waiting for it. You're sitting there trying to suss it out. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. In Saw 2, Donnie Wahlberg talks about how you've got to say "oh shit" at the end. If you don't say "oh shit," it's not a Saw movie. And I think he puts it really well, considering that is only the second movie. The twist really is Saw's reputation. In the first one, stop here if you don't want it. Stop here if you don't want any twists. In the first one, it's Kramer standing up at that end and going, "Oh my god, that wasn't a dead body." And then in 2, it's, "Oh my god, he was there the whole time." Detective Matthews' son in the safe. He's in a safe location. John Kramer. Sir. In 3, it's Amanda being tested. In 4, it's Hoffman being the apprentice. There's so many twists, some of them not so great. Why was the mortuary guy, I can't even think of his name right now, in Jigsaw? Why why did we need another apprentice? Why did we need another apprentice that somehow was before all of the other apprentices? Why? It was an okay movie, but why? I question it. That twist makes a Saw movie. And I find that the twist of the Saw movie also often affects how highly people rate it. 3 is a huge favorite for people. 1, huge favorite for people. 2, pretty up there. 6, often a huge favorite. 5, little less. 4 and 7, little less. Jigsaw, even further down. Spiral, did anyone watch Spiral? No? Yeah, that Fever Dream, collective Fever Dream. I'm gonna put a disclaimer here, I haven't seen 10. I know. I know. I missed it in theaters. I was sick. I'm sick now. And I'm hoping to watch it this October with my friend group, and maybe we'll get back to you guys on my feelings on it. Anyway, this has been an incredibly rambly video. I'm coming off of a week and a half long cold that my son gave me. I'm still not all the way there, and I just wanted to talk to you guys about something that I enjoy, make a little bit of an easier video. This is a 30-minute video. I'm sure I'm going to cut it down. Thank you for putting up with me this week. If you guys want to talk about Saw with me in the comments, please do. If somehow this appealed to you, stick around. I talk about movies, I talk about horror lit, I talk about internet horror, all the things that make you look over your shoulder at night. Hope you guys have a good one. Stay well. Don't get sick like me. Bye, guys.